We'll look at how to connect Azure API Management to an app service backend using a managed identity. Hi, I'm Yvo.
Hi, I'm Christian.
And today we'll take a look at security in Azure. We'll connect an Azure API Management service to an app service backend using a managed identity. We want to do that without secrets, without API keys, but based on identities.
Interesting.
Yeah, the old way, at least how we used to do it and how we know that it works, is that we configure a secret. If you do it right, then you put it in the key vault, of course. It can be a function key, it can be an API key. You can use that, retrieve it from the key vault, and use that to connect to the backend service. It's a setup that we have used in the past to connect our API management service to backends. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if people are familiar with Azure API Management, but it's a front end it's a kind of a gateway for your internal APIs that you can expose in a controlled and managed way with authentication, a product definition, throttling, all kinds of policies added. Yeah. It's a very rich service. We primarily use it to expose some APIs to clients or customers of the clients in a way that we can individually authenticate them and give them a set of permissions based on their own authentication level. We used to do that using an API key. It's a static secret. You need to manage that. It needs to be rotated to stay secure. People need to do that. I even had some personal calendar events that were about rotating some secrets. It's awful. You can automate that, of course, but it's not really...
it's easily be forgotten.
Yeah. Until at some morning the client calls you and says, hey, we have some customers that are calling us that they cannot use it anymore. Yeah. So that's why we have a better way in Azure. We can do it based on identities. What it does is that the API management service has a managed identity. Mm-hmm. You can use a system assigned managed identity. Not every Azure resource or service can use a system assigned managed identity. Okay. Then you can create a user assigned managed identity that you connect to that service. Yeah. But many resources can use a system assigned managed identity. What it means is that the API management service resource has a user representation. Yeah. It can identify itself in Entra ID. It goes to Entra ID, it says, hey, I am this APIM instance. It gets a token, and using that token, it goes to the app service in the backend. And the app service, because the issuer and the audience and the claims in the token are well known, they are configured. That's why the APIM instance can connect to that app service. It takes some configuration. Of course, the API management service needs that managed identity. You also need to add a policy to use that managed identity and to retrieve a token from Entra ID, from the issuer, and to add that to the request to the backend. Yeah. I will show that in the demo, how that looks. For the backend app service, you also need to configure that. And you can do that in multiple ways, of course. You can do it using EasyAuth. That's when you configure it in the portal, you switch on authentication, you choose the identity provider, you configure some values. That's how you do it in the portal. Yeah. You can do that using Bicep as well, of course. If you do it in the code, and we normally do that in the code, we have some secrets in the JSON, in the app settings JSON, or in the key vault, of course, that are retrieved from that. But using deployment and transformation, then it's all configured. And in the code, you can use authentication and authorization in .NET as well.
Okay.
But for the purpose of this demo, I did it using EasyAuth. And you have to have an app registration. And an app registration, that's a representation of your application in Entra ID. Mm-hmm. And you can expose an API using that app registration. You can add permissions, you can grant admin consent. Yeah, there's a lot of plumbing and connecting involved in that config. And it's a lot of steps you need to take, and they all need to be correct, because otherwise it doesn't work. Let's go to the demo. I have a Azure environment prepared. What I did is I created a very basic API. I can show you the project, but it only has, it has a home controller that just gives back what time it is. So that's not very interesting.
No authorization or anything on it, just a simple get.
Yeah, just a plain API controller that returns a response. That one is deployed in Azure in an app service. You can see it here. This is the default domain because of the name, how it was configured. If I open that URL, then there's a problem. I cannot access it because I'm unauthorized.
401.
Yeah, it's a 401 result. And that is because I went to the authentication blade here. And I enabled app service authentication. I chose Microsoft as the identity provider. There's a client ID. And in the settings, there are some settings that are important, of course. It's a single tenant account type.
And the application ID and such as the app registration.
That is the app registration that you can find in Entra ID. Yeah, that is true. That app registration client ID is also the audience. I configured it twice, as you can see, with the API : / and just the bare GUID. It depends on the type of authentication that you get. If you get a V2 issuer, then you get it with the API : / and if it's the V1 authentication for sts.windows.net, then you get it without.
Okay, that can lead to unexpected surprises if you forget one.
Yeah, and surely if I remove one of those two, it will work, but I should not remove the wrong one. So let's not do that. What's also interesting here is that you can see that, based on the issuer, I had to configure this, allow requests from specific tenants, but it is the issuer tenant. And if I click this, then already the current tenant is propagated, and I click OK, and then the red mark goes away. But this is important. The client application requirement, you can configure which clients can access this resource.
Okay.
If we say allow requests only from this application itself, then no other applications can access it. So then you will still get 403 results.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have specified which client application can use it, and there is a grayed out GUID, what you can see here.
Yeah.
And this GUID corresponds to the service principal of the API management, API management service. So this is for the app service with how that is configured. What we can do is we can take a look at this one and then go to Entra ID, if I can find that real quickly. Let me go here. Yes, there we are. Go to Entra ID. And if I look for this GUID, then we find an app registration and an enterprise application. Mm-hmm. So this is the app registration of the app service that we have.
Yeah.
Well, we can inspect that briefly. There's not much that we configured here for the authentication. It's not used in a single page application or a web application at this time. Otherwise you would add a platform and have a redirect URI and stuff like that. But that's not important for now. There is an automatically generated secret, but we don't use that as well, because otherwise you would need to store that secret and rotate that. In the token configuration, we did add a claim for the audience, so that the token that is issued by the issuer contains this claim.
Okay.
And then at the API permissions blade, we can see that it is allowed to read some user credentials in the Microsoft Graph API that has been granted. And we can expose an API. I did add some scopes when I was struggling to get it to work. I added those. I'm not sure if I remove them, if it still works. So let's keep it here, but I'm not convinced that they are needed.
Okay.
And there's not much here for app roles or owners or whatever. This is basically the configuration for the app service.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go to the API management service.
Yeah.
What I did was I created an API. I had a name test backend.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at the design, then we see that it connects to an endpoint to be the app service that we configured.
Yeah.
It's not entirely visible, but this name is the same as what you could have seen here. If I click back to overview. Yes, let me open that one. Yeah. Now you can see the same name, that it is the same name here. And what we did is go to security, managed identities, and the managed identity has been switched on, so we get a system assigned managed identity. This is the principal ID of the managed identity of this API management service. I can copy that one as well. Go back to my Entra information, paste it and see what we find. Then we see that there is an enterprise application. There is no app registration.
Mm-hmm.
The service principal does not create an app registration. You just have that enterprise application.
Yeah.
And you see that the application ID, well, maybe if you remember the start of the GUID, the 276, that was the first part, and this is the object ID. It's always very important to make a distinguishment between the application ID and the object ID to see what you get in the claim in the token.
Yeah. So this is the enterprise application that will call the API service, and that's how they know each other.
So this service principal has to have permissions to connect to that app service.
Yeah.
And we did that. Let me check. Here in permissions, you can see there is a claim value of user impersonation. That is a delegated permission. Admin consent was granted. This service principal has the permission to connect to that app service.
Is that admin consent? Is that an issue that only admins can consent to this permission?
Yes. Yeah, it really needs admin consent.
Yeah.
And I have not been able to do this using the portal. I needed to use the AZ CLI to get this permission here. And I think this was a thing that was missing from the original setup that I did when it didn't work. Another thing that you can do is you can go to that app service and go to access control and say, okay, I can assign some roles. I can make sure that the service principal of that API management instance is a website contributor, for instance.
Yeah.
But this did not do the trick for me.
Okay.
So I might as well remove this permission. But yeah, I think this is the key that makes sure that it does work.
Yeah.
So we have this managed identity. It goes to Entra ID. It fetches a token, and then it calls the app service. And then we should get a positive result, because if I just open the web app, I can try to get a result, but we still get a 401.
Not allowed.
Not allowed. Let's go to the test backend, and API management gives you this option to test your API. You can select an operation. You can add query parameters, headers, you can edit the body. If you post a request, you can do whatever you would like. But you can also just plainly click test. And we have a 200 result, and it says, hello Azure.
Hello, Azure.
The current daytime is the actual UTC time that it currently is. So that works.
Nice.
If you look at trace, that's also interesting. You can trace your entire request. Then you see what API management actually does. It gets a request with a subscription key that it propagated itself. It inspects the API. It says, hey, we might need to get a token for the backend. So it obtains a token from login.windows.net. And here's the call to the backend. It's forwarded to the backend with an authorization header with a bearer token.
Yeah, that's a token for the managed identity.
Yeah, this is the token that was obtained by the managed identity and that is actually authenticated at the app service. And if you would paste this in some JWT decoder, then you could see the claims and the issuer and everything that's in it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that one is handled and we get a nice result back. There was a response.
Yeah, sure.
And if you look at that policy that we need to get that token and to add that, then we can open the policies in API management. In API management, you edit policies using XML. Those XML snippets are applied to inbound policies, backend policies. You can have outbound policies. You can do specific things on error. So there are multiple points in the process where you can add those policies. What we do is at the inbound policy, when the request is received by the API management service, we say, okay, we need authentication for a managed identity, and we specify the resource that we want to authenticate for, and this is the GUID of the app registration of the backend service. So we authenticate targeted to that app service. Yeah, and we just also add this header, but that is not really necessary for this process. But just this element already makes sure that a token is obtained and that it is added as an authorization header to the call for the backend.
Yeah, nice.
That's how it works.
Kind of strange as you have to do with an XML and those kind of things, but
yeah, and in our bicep pipelines, we do have some XML resources that we just save as plain XML files, and we also use them in the pipeline and apply them to policies when we deploy an APIM service. So yeah, you have to handle it a bit differently than what you would like to see in the code or JSON, but it does work. Okay, so that is how we connect an API management service to a backend without a secret. Yeah, so no secrets, no rotation. In the end, your security posture really is better and stronger. Yeah. You can use it for any service-to-service call in Azure. Also, if you're connecting one API to the other or integrating Azure functions, you can use this way of working. And of course, it also applies to other Azure resources like key vaults, storage accounts, databases that you need to connect from your API management service. Yeah, you can use that managed identity in a lot of places.
Cool, nice.
Okay, well, that was it. Thanks. See you later. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.